Okay.
Hey,
Hi, everyone. This is Jordana Barakhov, and I have Yaffa Palti here. Yaffa, hi. How you doing?
Baruch Hashem, wonderful. So excited to be on this podcast with you.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
Thank you.
inviting me.
Oh my gosh, you can't imagine how exciting it is to have you here. I have seen my daughter talked about you all the time. I don't know. Do you remember who my daughter is?
Adina.
Dina, right?
Of course. I can never forget Adina.
Yeah, she's the cutest.
Yes.
She's a girl already, but yeah. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself to the audience a little bit? Give us some background, how you got involved in this public inspirational arena of yours.
Okay, sure. So my name is Yaffa Palti. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, me too.
You too?
Yes.
Imagine that. Jews from Brooklyn? How rare.
So rare.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Flatbush and East 9th and J. And you?
Very close. I grew up more in the Midwood area, like H and East 7th, but my family moved to Kings Highway and East 21st, and they've been living there for the past like 20 whatever years.
Okay, so East 9th and J, 7th and H is very close.
It's very, very close. Definitely,
Okay.
we shopped in the same stores. That's for sure. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, married my husband, who is from Mexico. That's a whole story in itself. Okay. And we moved to Eretz Israel when we got married. We lived there for 7 years while my husband was going for his smicha. So, and meanwhile, I was teaching in all different seminaries there. And we decided at a certain point that even though we loved it there and we were accomplishing so much, we felt that our Ahavas Yisrael had to be stronger than our Ahavas Eretz Yisrael, and we had to leave and teach Torah in places where they really needed us. You know, Baruch Hashem, there's no lack of good seminary teachers and good rabbis in Israel, but there's a lack of it in other places of the world. So we decided to move to Mexico, where my husband is from, and to go back to his community where they had no Torah being taught at all. So we moved there. We lived in Mexico for 11 years. Wow. Then we built up a community there. And then we moved to San Diego, California to build up a community and to build a shul over there, which we did. We lived there for 3 years, but it was a very difficult place to live Jewishly. You know, they don't have an infrastructure that makes it easy to live there as a Torah observant Jew. There are no kosher restaurants. There's no yeshiva. We were the only Shomer Shabbos family in about 15 miles. Wow. So it was really hard. So at a certain point, we decided, let's move somewhere where my husband, being that he's Mexican, so he has a fluent English. I mean, we do communicate, okay, but his blood is Latin, you know, and right. I speak Spanish now, but my blood is American. So we were trying to figure out where we can move, where we can kind of both give in the best way and really use our talents as best as possible. So we decided Miami.
Florida, why not?
Right? Miami is like the capital of Latin America over here, you know, but there's a little bit of English too, if you look for it.
Yes.
So here we are living in Miami now. And so you asked me how I got into doing what I do.
Yeah, because now you had said that right away you went into teaching. Was that something you always wanted to do? Teach as a young girl?
No. Okay. When I was younger, I don't know why, but my dream was to be a chiropractor.
Okay. There you go. My dream was to own a bank. So don't worry about it. That's for a separate...
That I understand.
Okay.
Who doesn't want to own a bank? Right?
Well, I mean, it was like a little selfish. No, that's another time. Yeah.
That's true. That I hear. I'll go talk about that another time, I guess. But yeah, I always wanted to be a chiropractor. There was something to me that was fascinating about the spine, the back, that it connects the whole body, and that really anything could be healed through the back, or almost anything, or whatever I knew at that time, you know. And I was fascinated by it until I reached a certain age where I realized, oh, to be a chiropractor, I have to go to medical school. I am literally the most squeamish person you have ever met in your life. Okay. You tell me that you hurt your knee and my knee is literally in agony. Like I'm fainting. Okay. I was like, I cannot do medical school. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do actually, but when I was in high school, I the end of high school, just the last year as a senior, someone reached out to me to teach in their Kirov Sunday school to a bunch of kids who were originally from Russia, like Russian immigrants, Jewish Russian kids. And to teach in their Sunday school. And I just thought it was going to be an adventure. I was very adventurous. To me, it wasn't about the teaching. It wasn't about the Kirov. I'm like, this is cool. So I went and I really, really did enjoy it. And that's why after seminary, when I wasn't sure what I was going to do and I was applying to college, and a principal in a school in the Bronx reached out to me and said, I heard that, you're a good teacher for Kirov. I don't know where he got that from. He said, we would like to offer you a job. And the truth is, I didn't know what else to do. I had no other job and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I accepted and I went to the Bronx every day. And it turns out I loved teaching. Yeah. I loved it.
It's so funny that you say that, because like I said, in high school, I so did not want to teach. And I had this one teacher, one of the Rebbeim, he never even had me, but he was like, I went to Shiva Flapish and he was like one of the more religious ones. And he's like, no, Jordana, you're going to want to help people. I said, no, I'm not going to get paid for my chesed. I'm just going to do it altruistically and that's it. And then I went to Michlala for the year and I decided if I'm going to go to Israel for the year, I want to come out with a degree. So they offered this pedagogy degree. And so I took extra classes and they would record you. I don't know if you had ever experienced this. Someone recorded me every time I gave like a model lesson, and then we would watch the video and comment on it. And I sat there and I was like, I am good. and who wouldn't want to do what they're good at? So, I always had these aspirations of public speaking, but I saw that in the classroom, I was really good. And I'm like, it makes me feel good to be good at something.
For
That's
sure.
How it came to me like that. So
that's incredible. No, it's really amazing to be able to pinpoint where your strengths are and to recognize them in yourself. That's really amazing because not a lot of people do that,
Yeah.
So like, I always knew that I was born to be on stage.
Right.
When I was younger, I was a performer, but I didn't realize what kind of stage I was going to be on today. Like to me, I didn't translate being a performer and being on stage as to being a Torah educator and even a public speaker. And I never had those aspirations, like to be that big in terms of, I always wanted to be on Broadway. Anytime I went to a Broadway show, my family had to like hold me in my seat. I would have jumped up onto the stage with them. Like to me, I get so much pleasure from performing, but that wasn't where my life led me. And, I knew that I wasn't going to really put in all the time and energy, and especially in the frum world where our options were limited, especially then, by the way. Today, it's so much easier to be a frum performer because of the internet, because of social media. There are so many outlets, there's so many ways and places and ideas. And then we didn't have anything,
It's so crazy that you say that because I'm also a performer, but actually I'm a dancer. And it was my dream to be a dancer, when you're little and then you realize you're from and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, there's so much out there today. And I remember my older sister used to tell me, you'll see one day you could dance for frum people. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to do it for me. But when I got married, the local Beis Yaakov here in Passaic, they opened up a high school and they needed a dance teacher for like a chug for an after. And my sister's like, go. I told you you're going to do it. I told you you're going to do it. And for 2 years, I taught dance to the high school Beis Yaakov girls, like it filled a void. You know what I'm saying? Definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
Because Hashem created you with those talents. So you don't feel fulfilled unless you're using them.
Correct. All I get to do is in my house now. You know what I mean?
100%. And I'm a big believer in everyone using their strengths and talents, and especially as women, because I'm a woman and I, connect with women. We have to use all the strengths and all the talents that Hashem gave us.
Yeah. So now how did this now translate into the social media world for you?
So here's the thing. When I moved to Mexico, and again, I'm not, this is a story that can go on for hours.
Forever, yes.
Exactly. So I'll just kind of, abbreviate for you. But when I moved to Mexico, it was very difficult. When I lived in New York, I feel like I was probably using about 85% of my talents and strengths in New York. Then I moved to Israel. The first few years were really hard, very, very big adjustment. But after 3 years there, I really found myself. And again, I felt like I was using, I don't know, maybe about 75% of my talents. Like I felt accomplished. I felt fulfilled. I was doing good work there. And then I moved to Mexico and I lost my entire identity, the cultural differences, the language, the community, the people. Like I lost my entire identity. I couldn't communicate with anyone. I didn't know who I was, where I belonged, what was I doing? It was very, very hard. And so again, you know, I'm
Sounds
not getting
painful.
into it. Yeah, exactly. But bottom line is, emotionally, I was really down, very, very down for a while. And at a certain point, I tried my best. Nobody knew, by the way. This was like an internal struggle. But on the outside, I did what I had to do. And I smiled. And I woke up every morning and I said, Hashem, it's going to be a great day today. You know, just watch me, you know. And I really tried. But inside, it was a very, very big struggle. And I felt part of what was so difficult for me, forget about socially. I'm a big extrovert and I had no social life there. And everything was just so difficult. Even sitting at a wedding, even if I practiced lines in Spanish, so I can say the lines, but then they responded. And I'm like, wait, that's not on my script. What do I do now? You know, sitting at my own Shabbos table. My husband was the Rev of the community. I was the Rebbitzin at age 27, the Rebbitzin of this big community of 5,000 people and people who I couldn't really communicate with. So I would sit there and we invited people every Shabbos and I would do all the cooking and I was, you know, serving and hosting them. And I would sit at my own Shabbos table and I didn't understand a word that was going on. And not only was that so difficult, I couldn't be involved in any conversations, but no one really knew me. No one knew who I was. Everyone thought I was just, you know, my husband's little trophy wife, you know, sitting there smiling in the corner. And that was so painful for me, you know? And I always said, even at the time when I was trying to be positive, even at the time, I would thank Hashem for giving me a nice smile. I had like nice white teeth. And I used to always say, Hashem, thank you for giving me a nice smile because that's all I'm using. All I have is my smile. I don't have words, you know? So that was really hard. And at a certain point I said, and I was in the middle of saying what was really difficult for me was that I felt like I had so much to give and not nearly enough people to receive what I had to give, just because of the cultural and language, you know, differences and difficulties, all those barriers. So I said, I have so much to give. I don't know what to do with it. And I was like a frustrated, educator, a frustrated connector. I'm a connector by nature, and I couldn't make those connections. So that was hard. And, you know, and I was giving classes, but it was very limiting because it was only for people who understood English. I couldn't give classes in Spanish, you know. In fact, in the beginning, I was so angry at Spanish. I was like, I'm not speaking this language. This is the language that ruined my life, you know? So I started like resenting Spanish, which of course led to resenting the people who spoke Spanish, which is not the best place to be in as Rebbitzin of a community that speaks Spanish. Right? But it was hard, but it really, this is all part of that like emotional decline, you know, that I was going through. And at a certain point I got up and I said, again, I'm not getting into the whole story of how I had that shift, because it's, you know, it's a long story, but at a certain point I did have a shift. And that's when I said, you know what? I feel like I have a lot to give. I can't give it here in Mexico. Let me see if I can give a little bit more outside of Mexico. And that's when I joined Facebook.
Okay.
I said, you know, in the beginning, I didn't want to join Facebook. I was like, what is this nonsense? Like, was social media? Like, to me, it was just weird. Like, why do I have to put myself out on the screen? Like, what was this? But I said, you know what? I'm going to join Facebook because this way I could connect with former students. I could connect with family. I could connect with people, and it would kind of maybe give me what I needed for living here. So I went on Facebook and I started putting out little parsha, I don't know, snippets, some of them by video, some through writing. And that was it. And I did feel more fulfilled that at least there's someone that I can teach, you know, even if I had 5 people watching my videos at first, by the way, you know, 5 views, I didn't care. I was so happy, you know,
happy to give. I
was so happy to just give. And at a certain point, I also started an email list. I'm like, I'm going to write my Torah and send to everyone on my email list, you know. And that was it. I didn't know if anyone was reading it. I didn't care. Like, I was able to give what I needed to give. So it made a little bit of a difference. But I didn't have like these big aspirations, like you said you had, of becoming a big public speaker. Right. For me, it was enough to give into my little corner of the world, which is what I was doing in Mexico, and now what I was doing on Facebook. But all of a sudden I got a phone call one day. Somebody went out of her way to find out my phone number. Okay. And she called me up and she said, hi. She lived in, it was in one of the northern cities in California. And she said, hi, I got your name and your number from someone. I've been watching you on Facebook. We're having a women's conference and I heard you're a public speaker and I would like you to come be our keynote.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Really?
What? Like my initial instinct was, I think you have the wrong number. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know who you're trying to call. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Stand up in public in front of a bunch of strangers and adults. And like, it was so weird for me. But then I realized like, hey, Hashem is answering my tefillos. Like I keep telling him, show me where I'm supposed to be. You gave a constant tefillah that I had all the time was I kept telling Hashem, you gave me so many talents that you're not letting me use in Mexico. All of my talents and strengths had to do with the English language. I'm an educator, actually a singer and songwriter, an actress, all of these things. Like I'm a writer, like what am I supposed to use with all these strengths? You gave them to me and I can't use them. And I felt like he was kind of leading me there. Now he's like, okay, I'll tell you what to do with them. You don't have to stay in Mexico. You can go around the world now. But at first I didn't read that yet, so I was just kind of like, I was nervous. I was scared, like all these thoughts went through my mind. Tell me if you felt the same way the first time you spoke. I don't know, but yes. I had like,
it's always the first 5 minutes of me speaking. I always get it. Even to this day, the first 5 minutes, I'm like nervous beforehand. I'm freaking out. But it's the adrenaline once I get started. Even when we started talking just now, the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, I took out my Tehillim, said a parak of Tehillim. Am I going to ask the right questions? How is she going to respond? And then as soon as you came on and just started talking, it's like a transition.
That's amazing. That's really incredible. But so I experienced that. But before I even got on stage, like I'm talking about, I was still on the phone with her. You know what I mean? And all of these thoughts, all these fears, like, I started picturing myself standing up on the stage, and I'm like, but what if I forget what I'm saying? What if the people don't like what I'm saying? Like if I'm, or what if I don't like what I'm saying? Like if you don't like my talk, you can get up and leave, or you can space out. If I don't like the talk, what do I do now? Like this is boring, but this is what I prepared, And then I'm like, what if I sneeze? What if I burp? Like what? Like on and on and on. And finally I was like, Yaffa, shut it. Okay. Right. You are going to try this. You're going to go for it. You're going to do it. And I just heard myself say, sure, and I realized this was going to be my test. This was where I was going to see, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't know if I was going to like it. The preparation in the beginning, before I became more polished, the beginning was like, I had to prepare every word. I had to write down every example, right? Every story example, even every joke. I'm like, insert joke here. Like, like, cause in the beginning, you don't know what you're doing, and it was so difficult. And it took me hours to prepare that first talk.
Yes. Hours upon hours to prepare.
Hours. I just sat there writing, rewriting, thinking, opening Sfarim, where do I get this from? Mm-hmm. And then I arrived. And of course I was super nervous, but I got up on the stage and all of a sudden I just had this feeling. Like I said, I felt like I came home.
Right. It was just said you felt like you were at home.
I felt like I was at home. Yeah. That was my feeling. And I barely even looked at my papers. I was just like, and it was the most incredible feeling in the world. And I got off the stage and I said,
I want it again.
This is where I'm supposed to be. I was like,
I want this again.
I need more of this. This is just an amazing feeling. But then of course comes the second part. So what do I do now? Like, I am not into self-promotion.
Hard.
Well, first of all, it's so hard. I didn't agree with it. Like, it wasn't my style. Mm-hmm. It's not my style to get up and tell people, hey, invite me, hey, bring me in, or to post my, it's not my style. I like to work organically. I like to just, so I was like, what do I do now? And then I had another conversation with Hashem. I'm like, okay, Hashem, I loved it. Thank you. If that's where you want me, then just keep sending me. Like, I'm leaving it up to you. And it was just unbelievable, Baruch Hashem, because word spreads in our circles, word spreads. And I just got phone call after phone call after phone call. And I was like, this is where I belong. And that's how it all started.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Oh, that's so amazing. And then how'd you transition? Now you're on Instagram. You're so popular on Instagram. So you went from Facebook to Instagram.
Well, at a certain point, I got to be on trend, I'm like, who's on Facebook anymore, and also, no, I'll tell you the truth. I fought it at first. I was busy enough on Facebook, and I wasn't only on my own page. I ran a few different pages, a few different groups on Facebook. I ran a cooking group. Oh, and at a certain point, I realized at a certain very large, we had 20,000 women. Wow. And at a certain point, I realized that I said, anyone can do this. I don't have to do this group. I was kind of trimming away my branches, the branches that I didn't feel really were ones that were taking me in the direction of what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. So whatever I was able to delegate, I did. So I left the cooking group. I was running a Taras HaMishpacha group also. So that one I stuck to, and that one I stayed in, and a few different things, question answer group on Hashkafa. That one I left, and I said, you know what? I'm moving over to Instagram. Let them all just follow me there, and I'll continue to be there. And the main reason I moved to Instagram was only because there were quite a few people who really were encouraging me and pushing me very strongly to go. I didn't understand how Instagram even works. I didn't know the difference. I was like, what do I share there? What do I share here? How am I going to know what to do? It's only pictures on Instagram. It used to be only pictures. Right. I was like, I like what? So I fought it until they kept telling me over and over again, Instagram needs you, Instagram needs you. And finally I was like, you know what? If my goal in life is to b'makom she'ein ish, tishtadel lihiyot ish, where there is someone missing, go be that person. When there's a need for something, go fill that need. So I said, if it's really true that there's a lack of Torah education and Torah hashkafa on Instagram, which there was, Baruch Hashem, now over the past year or two, there are so many more people. But when I joined 3.5 years ago, there really was nothing, nothing. Wow. So I joined, and slowly but surely I learned what Instagram was and how to serve the people there. I had to learn, it was a new crowd on Instagram, my Facebook crowd, lots of frum women, but lots and lots and lots of secular women as well. And many of them were older, 35 plus.
Right.
Suddenly on Instagram, I would say that 90% are frum, and everybody's much younger, from much 18 to 40 is like my very average age. And then of course there's older and younger too, but that's,
I have an interesting question for you. I mean, this had come up with my social media. I don't know if you even have this. Maybe you do. I was approached over the summer. A young girl approached me that girls don't have social media, and they're not going to have Instagram, and they're trying to veer away from it, but they still want my Torah. So we had started a WhatsApp group. Do you have something like that? Like a WhatsApp group just for you?
So I'll tell you the truth. A few different people started WhatsApp groups for me over the past few years. And it was very hard for me to keep up with it.
I hear.
It was just too hard for me. It's possible that I could manage my time better and then I can keep up with it. But I had to kind of drop them. I mean, technically they still exist, but I really don't use them anymore. Okay. I don't know. It was too.
I hear what you're saying. So this young girl, I made a deal with her. She's such a sweetheart. She's in Israel for the year, and she said to me that she's going to be an admin and I'm going to be admin. No one else could post anything. And basically what it is Thursday night, they get my Drink It In video, my Parsha video. And Tuesdays, it's question day. So meaning they sent in questions to her. She sends me a whole list of questions. So, she does that maybe 3 times so far. We've been doing it since the summer. And I pick through the different questions and I post one of the questions and then I respond video wise. So they're only getting 2 posts, so to speak, a week. So it's not overwhelming for me or for them. And it, because people say, I'm not another chat, but it was just an interesting concept. Yeah. That I was just curious because, I see different speakers do have, and I wasn't aware if you had something like that available.
Yeah, thanks. So right now, the only WhatsApp chats that I'm still administrating are ones that I don't have to be in charge of the content.
Right. I hear.
So I run 2 WhatsApp chats right now. One of them is for Kala teachers from all around the world. We have over 200 Kala teachers on the chat. And another one is for Torah educators from all around the world.
Right.
Also a few hundred women on the chat, but I don't have to be involved on a day-to-day basis over there. So I just let
one
go.
of them with you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're on one of those chats?
Okay. Yeah.
So I administrate those chats, but I was able to take a step back and let it just flow naturally because there are so many women there who can share and give. And for me, I wasn't finding the time to do that. Okay. So so that's with WhatsApp chats. I'm still hoping that I can get back into it. I need to learn how to manage my time a little bit better to make room for all of this, but I don't know if I'm going to end up doing it on a WhatsApp chat or just on a podcast.
I hear. Now, this is interesting when you're talking about managing time, because this is really what I wanted to get to, talking about family, managing time. And then, as you said, you went from Facebook to Instagram and following trends. And so what I am new to this, and I am new to social media. I would say I've only been around now for a year or so, year and a half, maybe, joining social media and doing all this, because I am so not about putting myself out there, even though as an extrovert, I like to put myself out on a personal basis, on a one-on-one with my classroom or something like that, or to give a lecture, to give a share. But the social media was always very scary to me. But now I'm trying to understand, engage. When I see different people, some people are putting their families out there with them. Some people are not putting their families out there with them. Some people post certain things that would have their family. Some people will only story with their family. So, everybody, I would love to get your take on it. Family, not family. Or even when you started, you had one vision, and then maybe your vision slowly shifted as maybe your family dynamics changed, your kids got older, whatever it might be. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, it's a good question because it's something that is I think it's very personal. Mm-hmm. Everybody definitely has a different approach to this, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And it's really important because it's very, very relevant, obviously, to anyone who puts themselves out there on social media. So for me, I'm going to start with saying that, Baruch Hashem, I have a husband and 5 children. And out of all of them, I am the only extrovert, except for my youngest son, who is now 9. Everybody else are big introverts and really, really appreciate their privacy.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So you can imagine that for me, that definitely poses a struggle sometimes. Okay. But I'll explain first, starting with my overall philosophy on this. And that is that if I make a decision to put myself out there, that cannot affect my family really in any way. Now, naturally, it would affect them a little bit, of course, just by virtue of the fact that even if they're standing with me in the supermarket and 5 people come over to me throughout that process and be like, oh, hi, Yaffa, I follow you, it already affects them. Right. But I try my best to keep whatever effect it would have on them as minimum as possible.
Right.
So if my family does not want to be on my stories, my older girls never want to be on my stories ever. Mm-hmm. In fact, they don't even want their voices to be in the background of my stories. Wow. So I have to be super careful. Does that affect me? Of course it affects me because I could only story when nobody's around. Right. Or like if I do my cooking, they're with me in the kitchen. So I'm gonna story my cooking and I'm going to put music on in the background so none of the voices come out. Uh-huh. Right. So because they don't want their voices on there. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, during the pandemic, this got much worse because everyone's story when no one's around, that leaves 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's not ideal. So it's been extra hard, extra challenging this year. In terms of posts, I try not to post my family at all either, unless I have explicit permission from them, which is rare. I think I only have 2 posts of one of my whole family. And I only did it because the photographer wanted to collaborate with me. And I was really trying to help her get her name out. She's a wonderful photographer. Right. And if that meant posting a picture of my family, I was going to do it if they were okay with it. And I don't know how I convinced them, but I did. So they were okay with that. But that's it. And then I have one more picture, I think, of just me with my boys, my younger boys from a few years ago. And that's it. Because this is public. I don't know. I just kind of look at it like, would I be sitting in the park and just kind of have every stranger in the park come over and take a look at my kids on the bench? Like, hey, did you see my kid today? Come on, let me show you. To me, it's like there has to be a certain level of privacy. Now, this goes for posting your family, but the truth is this philosophy of respect, I respect my children's needs, of course, and I have absolutely no problem if they don't want to be on social media. It makes it more challenging for me because I have to be extra careful of even if I'm videoing my husband making Havdalah after Shabbos, if one of my daughters like arm is in the elbow, she doesn't want me to post it. Arm is in the video. Did I say elbow? She doesn't want me to post it. So then I won't be able to post it. Like they really don't like to have any part of them on my story. So of course it makes it more challenging for me. But I'll tell you the truth. My philosophy in general is we have to be so careful with what we share on social media in general. And I think that we live in a society of oversharing and it gets really dangerous for relationships. I can tell you case after case after case of relationships that I know that were completely destroyed because of social media. I can tell you people that were destroyed because of social media, because of what they choose to share. People air their dirty laundry in public, all in the name of, I don't know, vulnerability. Like, since when did being vulnerable become the goal?
Right.
Why is that an ideal to strive for? Vulnerability is a means to an end. It means that sometimes in order to create a real deep relationship with someone, you're going to have to be vulnerable. Right. But being vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable, just so you can get validation for your vulnerability, how is that healthy? How does that help anyone? Right. It doesn't. Most people watching that or reading that are so happy to see that there's someone who's worse off than them. That's why they're liking the photo. Right. They're like, can I tell you, more dysfunctional than me? Thank you.
Well, two things I wanted to add to that. One, you're talking about, that's all the way going back to Chava, right? Why'd she give the fruit to Adam? She says, what? Right. I should die and he gets to live and marry someone else? I don't think so. I'm going down. He's going to go down with me. So, I mean, that's basic from female number one, our mentality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you're talking about children and how you said that your children are introverts. See, my children are extroverts, a lot of them. They very much take after me and my personality, so much so that certain teenagers they're not even teenagers anymore. My oldest son, he had Instagram and his yeshiva had promoted him, really pushed him to get the Instagram to build himself up. He ended up becoming a huge dancer on Instagram, believe it or not. And it became a bonding thing between us. And then at home, sometimes when he'd come home from yeshiva, he'd say, Ima, I'm doing a live. And I didn't know how, I wasn't connected to social media at all at this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're doing a live. like someone's watching me right now in my kitchen, and I was just interacting with him. And I remember when he was in 12th grade, he was making his first siyum ever. He had really done tremendous growth throughout his Mesivta high school career. And I even spoke at his siyum, because he told his yeshiva, you have to understand, my mother's going to speak, whether you give her permission or not, she's going to speak. So this one story, this one anecdote really sent home something to me. A boy walks over to my son after this is my mother, a boy walks over and whispers something to my son. And I said to him, what did he say to you? He said, Ima, you'll never believe this. He said that he was so excited to meet you because he remembers when we were in the kitchen together and I did a live and I was like, and you were in it. And he was so impressed with the relationship that the two of us had, it inspired him to work on his relationship with his mom. And
that's amazing.
Right. So, I was like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, really? I mean, it was just a seed that plant, I still have not done anything in that sense. For my own platform, I have not put my kids out there. Once in a while in the very beginning, I think I would do a few dances with my daughter. And it was like, cutesy little things, a little snippet just to show like bonding. Or if I took her out, because she's an extrovert also, she goes, Ima, let's go. I'm like, that's
so funny. That's so funny. And it's so the opposite by me. Like whenever we go anywhere, my kids don't even want me to tell anyone where we are. I don't take out my phone almost at all to video anything. And for me, it's like, it's a little hard. Like there's a beautiful scene here and I want to show people, but I know my kids are not happy about it.
Oh, my daughter, my 5-year-old, she's the one, she takes out my phone. She goes, Ema, stand here. Ema, stand there. Like pose this way, go like this, hold that. I'm like, okay.
So funny. Good. That's great though, because that's super helpful for you.
Yeah.
Because you have their support.
Yeah.
Like for me,
bonding. I find it a nice connection with the kids.
Yeah. Right. So that's nice. It's a nice place of bonding. But that really is nice. In the beginning, I didn't even have my husband's support. Not that I didn't have his support. He trusted me that I know what I'm doing, but he didn't understand it at first. So he was just like, again, another video? Like, what is this? And in the beginning, he thought he would like make fun, but obviously I'm saying this with quotes. But he'd be like, he would tell my kids, oh, look, your mother's a teenager. She's on Instagram. And I kept saying, it's not for teenagers anymore. Like, correct. This is life today. Now he totally gets it. And I have his full support. But it took a while for me to show them, and they know that I was doing it completely l'shem shamayim. Like it was really, I was really there just to give. But it doesn't mean they understood how it works and why it's much more time consuming than Facebook. Oh. Facebook was like, a post. And even though, I ran different groups, it's different when you just take a few minutes here and there to type up a response than right. to, put yourself out there the way you do on Instagram. Yeah. So it was definitely an experience, but I am super, super, super into privacy. Even me as an extrovert, has nothing to do with my personality. It's really what I understand from a Torah perspective that we have to remain private. I will never record anything in my bedroom. And if I do, it's against the wall where nobody can see where I am, I will never talk about things. I do a lot of relationships coaching and intimacy coaching. I will never put intimacy tips out in public. I just don't, there has to be boundaries. This is not the place to speak about things that are actually private. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're shameful. It just means there's a time and place for everything. It means it's special.
I think it means it's special.
It's special. Yeah, 100%. It's not secret. It's sacred.
Right. Sacred, special. It's yours.
Yeah.
Your own.
Exactly. So, so I'm saying there are certain things that I'm super careful about, even politically. I don't talk about politics in public. Those are also things that there are certain things that you have to develop a relationship with people before really being able to formulate, I have a lot of opinions that don't make it past my DMs. Right. Only or in one-on-one classes, meaning in classes that I give face-to-face or through Zoom, as opposed to being in public. This is one thing I was realizing slowly as my platform was growing. I don't know who's watching me. I don't know who's reading my things. So you have to be careful. I also really, if your relationships, if your real intimate relationships in life are important to you, you can't share the same things with them and with 20,000 other people.
Right. I hear that. It's interesting. You said you don't know who's watching you. I would love to end with this question with you. When looking back now, did you have any, I want to talk about proud moments and maybe some regretful moments through this whole social media process?
Okay.
Let's start with the negative. Let's start with the regretful and let's end with the proud.
Okay. I need to think about this. Do I have any regretful moments? I'll tell you the truth. I don't take social media very seriously. Okay. To me, it is such a minor part of my life and such a minor part of my day. Mm-hmm. I'm so thankful to have that platform so that I can give and so that I can teach and so that I could connect with the people who need it. And it's beautiful. And I love the connections that I've made, and I love to be able to give in this way. But I really spend just a few minutes a day on it. So I take the people seriously, and I take the content seriously, that I have to make sure everything is thought out. I don't post, even my stories, I never post in real time. I always record everything. And then when I have a chance to sit and rewatch it, I make sure before I post it that this is something I want to post. Right. So I'm super careful about that, but I don't take it so seriously in the sense that I don't play all the games. I don't try to do things to, you know, I don't do things for the followers. I don't do things like I'm really there to give. I'm not there to get.
Got it.
You know,
I
so I don't have, thank you. Like, I don't, people ask me all the time. They're like, don't you ever get burnt out and need a social media break? I don't, because I don't get burnt out, because I don't give it that much seriousness that will actually burn me out. You hear what I'm saying? So I don't take a break. If I don't feel like going on social media today, I just don't go on today. If I don't feel like it for 2 days in a row, I just won't go on for 2 days in a row. I won't talk about it. I won't tell everyone I'm taking a break. I won't come back and say, sorry, I've been MIA. Nobody noticed. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? It's like who cares? And once in a while, I do get a message from people. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're okay. And it's so sweet. I love it. But I don't take it that seriously. It's such a small portion of my day and of my life. So I don't have regrets, really, because I don't do anything that is not completely intentional on social media. You know,
proudest moment.
But I will tell you, the main regret is connected to my proudest moment.
Okay, let's hear it.
And that is, my proudest moment is when I actually respond to comments, and when I'm on a good roll responding to DMs. I am so proud of myself. I'm like, you go, girl. Like, you really got to the DMs today. You really got to the comments today. I love doing that. And my biggest regret is not having enough time to really respond to every single comment and to have deeper and longer conversations in my DMs. Those are my biggest regrets. I wish more than anything, because I absolutely love the people that I have met through social media. And I love the relationships, you know, that have been formed, and the bonding and the connections. But I don't have the time, since it's such a small part of my life. Most things that I do don't make it to social media. Nobody knows about 95% of my day, 97% of my day, you know? So because of that, those are my regrets, that I don't have enough time to really respond in the way that I want to. And again, my proudest moments are when I'm able to, you know, to really connect in a way that I like to connect.
So thank you so much. That's beautiful. Yeah. You know, the way you started is the way we ended. You spoke about this, that you are a person besides the extrovert, but you like to make connections, and how when you were in Mexico, you felt you were stifled and you couldn't make those connections. So you had this downward slide, and then Baruch Hashem sent the shaliach to you to go to California and speak, and you started making those connections. And to really your goal through it seems like your goal through your social media is to continue those connections, and your highest you make those private connections through the social media. And that's just such a beautiful thing. So I really want to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about family and privacy and the importance of that is very important for everyone to hear. And the concept of vulnerability.
All relationships. There has to be an element of privacy in your relationships. Correct. So if everything is just out there, then how special are your real relationships?
Correct.
You know,
you can't be friends with everyone. You know, there's acquaintances, there's friends, there's good friends, there's connections.
Yeah. I like to be what I call selectively vulnerable. I choose how vulnerable to be. I choose with whom I will be vulnerable. I choose how much I will say, you know, but it has to be that's what I believe is true authenticity. People often confuse authenticity with transparency. Right. Today, it's really confusing. The line is very blurred. People think that in order to be authentic, I have to be transparent. And that means they have to know everything about me. And if I don't share all of my secrets and all of my life and all of my therapy sessions and all of my everything, then I'm not being authentic. And that's not true. Authenticity means I am choosing what to share, but whatever I choose to share, I am being 100% authentic in that sharing.
Beautiful. I love it.
But it doesn't mean to share everything.
Right. Correct. Not share everything, but whatever you're sharing is true. True to
exactly.
Who you are. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yaffa. That's such a high.
It's a pleasure. Jordana, thank you so much for inviting me. It was an honor. It was a treat. And I'm looking forward to listening back to this and to all the rest of your podcasts.
Thank you so much, Yaffa. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.